We're standing on a giant rock, hurtling through the vastness of space at thousands of miles an hour. We're chained to a massive nuclear fireball, and at any moment, the atmosphere could vanish. At any moment, the sun could flare and erase everything. And at any moment, there are a billion things that could go wrong. But still, we as humans, we celebrate birthdays, we plan weddings, we mark anniversaries, we build our lives as if the sky isn't on fire. We are human. We carry on. Maybe we're blind or maybe we're brave. Who knows? But we're never realizing, never really thinking that in any moment, in any number of magnificent, spectacular ways, the universe can literally end us. And somehow, that's what makes our existence both beautiful and terrifying. Welcome to the Archive. So we spend billions of dollars a year designing rockets, right? We argue over missions to Mars, Europa, and other planets. And when we have a launch, we watch those in awe. We're just looking at it, humbled by our own creation. And we call those lucky few that actually get to go into those rockets, the astronauts, we call them the lucky few. The right stuff. But have you ever stopped to ask, or have you ever stopped to think, are we possibly already on a spaceship? Because the real truth is, we've been traveling our whole lives, because Earth is also a spaceship. You are standing on a rock that's spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour. The rock is orbiting a star at 67,000 miles per hour. And the star is flying through the galaxy at over 500,000 miles per hour. It's dragging our entire solar system along for the ride. And that's not even science fiction. Not at all. That's what's happening right now. What you're feeling beneath your feet is us flying or hurtling through space. We are passengers on a ship that we did not build. We have no control over its speed or its direction or its destination, and yet we treat this kind of like background noise. There's this quote that kind of lives in my mind rent-free, and it's been there for quite some time. For those of you that are Doctor Who fans out there, you may recognize it from, I think it was season 9 with Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. But he says something like this: you know that feeling you get when you realize you're standing on a planet that's spinning through space at thousands of miles
an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me, clinging to the skin of this tiny little world, and if we let go...
Like that's a normal thing. I just don't think we think about that every single day. And I mean, we get stuck thinking about things like bills or job titles or follower accounts or subscriptions. So the thing is, none of that stuff really matters in the cosmic scale of things. If you've seen any of the cosmos, you know that the existence of mankind has only been that small part, that last second, I think, before the clock turns midnight. But none of that changes the fact that right now, we're on a spaceship. And right now, we are hurtling through space. Even the things that we think are stable, the grass under our feet, the warmth of the sun, and even the air we breathe, that's just temporary. Really, when you think about it, it's just a temporary balance in a violent, expanding universe. And that's what I want to be about when it comes to the Archive. It's not a podcast about science for science sake, but a reminder, a kind of nudge that all of this planet, this life, this moment, none of it is guaranteed. It's really a miracle of motion and a borrowed window in time. And the mission isn't to give you answers, it's to help you notice, to wake up from the illusion that this is all normal. And just to realize the ride, it already started. You don't need to get to space. You're already in it. So the next time you step outside and you feel that breeze, or you smell the earth, or you watch the sky shift in the sky. That didn't make any lot of sense. Neither did that phrase. But you get the point. I just want you to remind yourself, you're on a ship, and it's moving fast, and the view is incredible. You just gotta look up. Okay, we've already said it. You're on a spaceship, and that's not being metaphorical. It's being as literal as possible. But here's the deeper question. Where did this ship come from? Who actually built the ship? And I think the truth is, I don't think anybody really knows. We don't know how we got on it, but we do know kind of how it was built, at least from a science perspective and today. So about 4.6 billion years ago, this place began as dust. Stardust, if you'd like. The shattered remains of an ancient sun that exploded long before Earth was ever formed. Gravity started pulling the dust together, and there isn't a blueprint, there's no hands, there's just mass and time. Eventually, it collapsed into something dense and hot and unstable, and that's how Earth began. Now, at first, Earth was a molten piece of chaos. It was a spinning ball of lava. It had no air, had no oceans, it had no life. But then something brilliant happened. As the planet started cooling, heavier elements like iron and nickel sank toward the center. This event, what scientists call the iron catastrophe, wasn't just a geological phase, it was foundational. That sinking metal, it created Earth's core, and that core created our magnetic field. It's a force that still shields this ship, this Earth ship, from the deadly radiation of our sun. And without it, the atmosphere would be stripped away. Earth would be as dry and lifeless as Mars currently is. Then came the crash. Roughly 4.5 billion years ago, there was a Mars-sized planet named Theia that collided with the Earth. It was apocalyptic, to say the least. The impact flung debris into orbit, and that debris, and what you see every night, is actually our moon. Now, the moon didn't just sit there, looking all pretty and shiny like it does today. It stabilized Earth's axial tilt. And that, right now, is why we have seasons and predictable tides and a relatively stable climate. Relatively stable climate, for now. So without the moon, Earth would be a big wobbly, gobbly, violently too chaotic for long-term life type of planet. It would be too wild for this ship to function at all, at least from our perspective. Now, here's where the story gets just a little bit fuzzy. When I say fuzzy, it usually just means I don't have any evidence for it. Because while we know how the ship was built, we still don't know how we ourselves got on the ship. Now, we can trace the ingredients, the water, the heat, the pressure, the organic molecules. We can even map the conditions, the hydrothermal vents, lightning storms, maybe even asteroid delivery. But no one, and I mean no one, can tell you with certainty how non-living matter suddenly became alive. I mean, was it by chance? Was it inevitable? Was it seeded from somewhere else? We call it abiogenesis, the origin of life from non-life. But it remains one of the biggest open questions in all of science. And maybe that's part of the point. Even now, with all of our data, the story of life's beginning is really still unfolding. Whatever the answer, life just showed up. And it didn't just survive, it transformed this ship. Roughly 2.5 billion years ago, a tiny microbe evolved, cyanobacteria. They could photosynthesize, turning sunlight into energy. but they also released a byproduct that would change the planet, our spaceship, forever. It created oxygen. What started as a poison to other organisms became the key complex to life. The atmosphere actually thickened because of it. The oceans began to stabilize. The sky turned a nice shade of blue. Life was no longer just on the ship, it was rebuilding it. And what's wild is this: the Earth didn't just become habitable by accident. It became habitable because it adapted. The magnetic field deflects radiation. The moon stabilizes our climate. The atmosphere traps heat and filters sunlight. And the biosphere, life itself, helps to keep all of this in balance. It's like the ship built its own ecosystem, its own onboard maintenance crew, and it was not designed, it just evolved that way. So we didn't build this Earth ship. We didn't book a ticket. We woke up already on board. But I mean, look around. This isn't a cold metal spacecraft. It's alive. It has oceans, it has clouds, it has forests and fields. It is as alive as a ship can actually be, and it carries the memory of every moment before you, every rise and fall, every breath and spark. You're on a ship by accident, not knowing how you got there, don't know where it's going, no one's driving the ship, and somehow it just all works. Like magic. And we all know magic is just something that science can't currently explain. But still, it's a pretty cool prospect and idea. But now comes the question people rarely ask. Where is the ship going? If you thought I was going to give you that answer, you're definitely tuned into the wrong show, because I have no idea where this ship is going. I'd ask the captain, but there really isn't one. So there's that. So the ship is really going everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. Because Earth isn't piloted. Like I mentioned, there's no captain. It's drifting. It's carried by velocities. It's pulled by gravity. It's riding a cosmic expansion. And right now, you're moving roughly at 1,000 miles per hour. Rotating at 1,000 miles per hour. You're orbiting the sun at 67,000 miles per hour and racing around the galaxy at 514,000 miles per hour. You're hanging with the Milky Way as it basically moves across the cosmos. And we don't even know what the Milky Way really looks like because we can't take a selfie of ourselves. But each of those motions, they overlap, they intertwine. But through all this, you don't feel anything. You don't feel the ground move. Well, unless you're having an earthquake, then you will probably feel the ground move. But I mean, overall, you don't really feel it. You don't feel us traveling that fast. That's because in space, there's no fixed frame of reference. No cosmic up or down, left or right, north or south. Once you leave the surface, everything is relative, honestly. Earth follows a corkscrew around the sun, which spirals through the Milky Way, which drifts within the expanding universe. That means there's no loop, there's no circle. Every moment in space is a new location. So every back there or what happened yesterday, it only existed then and never again. And I know we celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and places we've been. Now, that might be where we are physically on Earth, but in the grander scheme of things, in the system itself, in the universe, we've never been back there. We were only there that one time. Now, think about it from the time travel perspective. You would have somebody dial in a date, dial in a time, but the one thing you never really see them do is take accountability for other factors like space itself. A return to yesterday, you would actually materialize in empty space because here then isn't here now. But to give you a real answer, at least, the idea of where we think our ship could be going, our galaxy, unfortunately, is heading for a collision. Yeah. So our galaxy, according to the latest calculations, we may actually collide with the Andromeda galaxy. But don't worry, it's not going to be today or tomorrow or even 100 years from now. We won't be around to see it. It would be pretty cool to see. But we're talking 4.5 to 5 billion years, possibly longer, possibly shorter. Hard to judge that far ahead in time. But even though we're not going to be able to see it, we can still kind of idea and talk about it, right? Because if it does happen, our sky will brighten with billions more stars. Galaxies will warp like boiling metal. Tidal forces will carve new tails. Streams of stars and gases will pull towards each other and outside of each other. Our solar neighborhood may drift outward or even get ejected into space. I mean, the stars, they rarely collide, but supermassive black holes at each center will eventually merge, releasing this gravitational wave across the new elliptical galaxy. And once again, to be clear, you and I probably won't be here to see it. I say probably because you just never know, but 99.9% sure we're not going to be here to see it. The sun, most likely anyway, before that happens, will likely fade or swell long before then, and still the ship is heading that direction. So where is this ship, this Earth ship, actually going? Right now, it looks like we're going towards Sagittarius A, toward annihilation or toward infinity itself. Remember, I did say that we're going everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But no matter what, it's going to be heading towards transformation, toward a rebirth, if you will. It may not find a destination, but it's certainly going to change the shape, size, and everything about the planet. And maybe that's the most human truth, is that the end of the journey isn't about where we arrive, it's about what we witness along the way. Take that metaphor. So Earth as a ship isn't really a new concept. It's been around, at least as far as I know, throughout my entire life. But let's just say if we decided to actually build a spaceship today to reach, let's say, our closest neighboring star, Alpha Centauri, and we could try, right? We can build the spaceship, we can put it together, we can launch it into space with everything that it needs. But with our current technology, it's going to take a few thousand years to get there. And that would mean it wouldn't happen in our lifetime, and not with our rockets, and currently not with any type of technology that we have. But at best, it would take tens of generations. A full human civilization basically living out their entire existence aboard that ship before we ever reach the edge of another solar system. That's what scientists call a generational ship. It's a vessel where people are born, grow up, and pass on their knowledge, all without seeing the final destination. And yet, the system still keeps running. They teach the next group how to grow food, recycle air, maintain balance, because if they don't, the mission will end. But here's the thing, and the reason that I brought that up is Earth itself is that generational ship. It's not moving toward a specific star, for instance, and it's not following like a plotted course, but it is drifting, and it's always moving in a direction, whether that be here, there, or everywhere all at once. But it's always carrying us. The generation after generation, you and I, were born on this ship. We live our whole lives aboard this ship, and one day we'll hand it off to those who come next, our kids or grandkids. So it definitely makes you wonder if at some point we did know the destination, at some point we did know what we were doing, and we just forgot. Because that's a long time. What we build here and what we leave behind will shape how the next crew carries on. And that's the quiet responsibility of being on a generational ship. You just don't exist to exist. You have to contribute. Because the ship we're on, it's not going to last forever. The sun that lights our way, that we're attached to, that we're flying through space with, will eventually burn out. The earth and ground beneath our feet will one day be nothing more than a silent, scorched rock, adrift again, empty again, throughout space. Our atmosphere will fade, the oceans will boil away, and whatever story we've carved into this vessel, those will settle into dust. But that doesn't mean the ride wasn't worth it. It doesn't mean the journey wasn't worth it. I mean, we've asked some big questions. Why are we here? How did we get here? And what's the reason behind any of it? And maybe we'll find the final answer someday, or maybe we were just never meant to. Because in my humble opinion, it was never about the destination, never about earning the ticket to board. It was always about the ride. Something that you've probably heard your whole life. It's never the destination, it's always the journey. But it's what we discovered along the way. And the universe is filled with vehicles, things like asteroids and comets and planets. radiation waves. When you think about it, even our own bodies, our vessels, we carry bacteria, we carry atoms forged in stars, we carry memory on our skin and in our bones, and sometimes even inked into our arms like ancient scrolls. Every wrinkle and every scar, every celebration, it's a map, it's a marker, it's a reminder that we were here. And one day someone might find this ship, maybe far from now, maybe never. And if they do, they'll see the signs, the carvings in stone, the satellites in orbit, the books, the languages, the codes we left behind. Even if we never understood why we were here, we have left behind how we were here. Maybe that might be just enough. And the reason that I bring this episode into mind, because walking around outside and just looking up at the sky, sometimes even I forget that there are larger things at play than what happens within our own lives. I understand that everything down here happens in a blink of an eye. And it's not that we're ants, or it's not that our lives don't matter. It's just that some of the things that we tend to worry about as people, as human beings, don't really matter in the long scheme of things. All the stress and anxiety that come with being a human being, all of that is nothing in comparison to how long we've been on this Earth ship, to how small we are compared to the rest of the universe. I know it's strange to say this, but I hope that leaves you with some type of peace of mind, knowing that you could do a lot of great things. And in hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years to come, none of it in the end really matters. So be kind, be nice, and subscribe if you like my channel. Thanks, everybody. This is the Archive. Have a great one.